Welcome back to Sunday Nation. It was only 2 weeks ago that Michigan State University's interim president, Dr. Teresa Woodruff, was here in studio talking to me about the commitment of the university in East Lansing. 2 weeks later, a gunman killed several students, 3 students to be exact, and left several wounded. The gunman turned the gun on himself and actually killed himself. Here to talk about it is Jim Jackson. He's the chair of the Criminal Justice Program at Wayne County Community College District, a professor of criminal justice, and a former senior law enforcement officer with the Detroit Police Department, decades with the Detroit Police Department. Thank you so much for being here. It's
my pleasure, sir.
You know, I wanted you to help us understand in terms of what happened in Lansing at Michigan State University. 3 students dead. The gunman turned the gun on himself and died, we're told, from self-inflicted wounds and so forth. And people are trying to understand, how can this happen on a college campus? This is not new, but for us here in Michigan and the region of Southeast Michigan, can you walk us through what you feel in terms of what has been reported? What could have been done differently here to prevent such a massacre, if that is even possible?
I'm not sure if I can say what could have been done differently.
Right.
As you know, the only report, it just happened.
Yes.
And the only reports have been in the media.
Right.
I think that just based on what we do and what other colleges do,
right,
we do everything that we can to prevent this type of activity from occurring, and
right,
and I can walk you through that to some degree.
Yeah.
But if it does occur, we our law enforcement folks, as well as the other members of the academic community, have to respond appropriately.
Right. Walk us through that. So what does that look like? So if you were running public safety right now at Michigan State University, how would you be responding to this?
You know, just based on what I've seen in the media.
Yes.
Which is
what we're going with.
We're seeing.
Right.
And understanding that we will know a lot more after this is after they've thoroughly looked at what occurred and thoroughly looked at the response.
Right.
You know, I can step back and say that it's my understanding, just from outside, that generally everything happened that was supposed to happen. Again, it's going to require a lot of analysis to determine that. Now, when I look at what we do at the college, for example,
at Wayne County Community College,
it is a total community effort to ensure that one, this type of activity, to the extent that you can be prevented. The community has to be, shall we say, together, looking at what's occurring in that community. It sounds like, again, from the reports, that the perpetrator had some major issues in terms of a number of items, including some things that have to do with illness, mental illness issues. Perhaps, you know, when the laws that are pending are passed in Lansing, via assorted methods, we'll be able to prevent, to some degree, this type of individual from obtaining a weapon, obtaining a gun, possessing a gun. Again, we have to see what it looks like. There are going to be some preventive measures that'll take place. And there are some things on the books right now where and I see it as a part of community policing, for what it's worth.
Okay.
Where if the community is talking to the police, and I'm sure they are, and in our little community down at the college, we try to ensure that everybody's talking to everybody. The chancellor, Dr. Ivory, has instituted a whole bunch of safety issues. Am I 100% sure that they will prevent this type of activity? No, we can never be 100% sure. But we can do what we can to try to prevent, to try to limit, and so forth.
And I think that's where the contention comes. A lot of people, I've heard some people say, well, you can't prevent this on a college campus. Anybody can walk in with a loaded weapon and just go on a rampage.
Absolutely. We need some strong legislation, and it looks like, from what I understand, that the governor is beginning to do some things with that. Right now, you know, the laws allow, you saw those things that happened over the years where folks brought weapons to the Capitol and so forth. You know, unfortunately, that is legal to some degree. Can we prevent that? We do. If weapons are seen, our folks do some things to attempt to limit it, attempt to stop it, to prevent it to some degree. But it's a wide effort. Let me give you an example.
Sure.
Dr. Ivory instituted something for our students, and our faculty and staff have the same ability, that allows students who perceive that they have medical problems on the one hand, or mental issues on the other hand. All of our students have 100% access to physicians online, and with some follow-up stuff. That, you know, that's revolutionary almost, that a student, as a part of his being in our academic community, can reach instantly somebody that can help him with his possible issues with.
Right. Going back to MSU, I've been reading some reports about the Ingham County Prosecutor's Office, and there have been reports suggesting that perhaps the ball may have been dropped on their end because they've had some run-ins with this particular assailant who killed himself and so forth. And, you know, and I think the question is, though, is whether, in fact, does this, should, in fact, the prosecutor's office in Ingham County, should it come under some sort of a special attention? Should there be an investigation? Which, you know, that's been my opinion, that, you know, we need to see where they miss the red flags here.
That's a good question. And let me say, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know the answer to that. Right. But I think that in every criminal case, and again, you and I saw the newspaper reports that that the perpetrator, who is now deceased by his own hand, that the perpetrator had an illegal weapon and he was placed on probation.
Right.
You know, I can only assume and hope that there was a thorough evaluation. All of the courts, including our court down here, would have been 36D. I know that the chief judge has done a tremendous amount of work with guns, and historically we've had where first-time offenders are evaluated and they make some decisions about that. You know, if it had happened in, what was it, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, he would have been, even if he had been incarcerated, the most that he would have gotten was 2 years and he would have been out. So I hate to second guess without knowing what
the prosecutors could have, whether they dropped the ball here.
Right. And they have from what I understand, they have a good probation area up there where this individual would have been reporting. I know down here in our community, folks who are put on probation they're out there in the community. There's contact with the law enforcement folks on the probation stuff and parole stuff. If it's there is, anybody can go to their computer and look up any individual who may have been recently incarcerated or recently convicted. If it's a sex crime, they can see pictures
a sex
of
offender
it.
list.
I mean, it's a big system, and again, I think that there's going to be a thorough evaluation of everything that occurred with this individual, everybody who was in contact with him.
So what would the roadmap look like if you were the one heading an investigation in a scenario like this? I mean, what would you be looking for, you know, outside of what the media is reporting?
I think that the question is, what did you do?
Right.
Did you do everything that you could do to prevent it? And sometimes in the law enforcement field, there is just there's some decisions that are made based on the evidence that you have at that point in time.
Available evidence.
Absolutely. And stuff happens. And it's happened all over the country. It's happened in Florida, in Texas, on the East Coast, all over the country. It's happened. It happened at a school a few minutes from where we're sitting.
Right.
I would do a thorough evaluation. I would try to bring our community closer together. And when I say our community, the interaction between law enforcement, other first responders, psychiatric and psychological forces in the community that can help.
Right.
There may not be, you know, from what I've read, his family and members of the community said that he was acting strange. Well, where is the community informed as to what ought to occur?
Right.
Is the community meeting with other members of the community? Is the community working with law enforcement? You know, down at our college, there's this constant communication that goes on between law enforcement, the community, and in our case, the academic community.
Right.
Police agencies.
Yeah. So I think that leads me to the next question. What happened at Michigan State University that a lot of colleges are looking at it, I'm sure around the country, but especially here, perhaps using this to redefine what their public safety measures look like right now? I mean, does this warrant Wayne County Community College to review its own existing public safety measures?
They're going to review.
Yeah.
And they're going to review thoroughly. They have a great police agency historically up there. And when I say a great agency, their response capability is excellent. They've got excellent working relationship with based on what I've seen over the years.
Yeah.
Now, the question is there anything that we could have done that we didn't do?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they will know, I believe they will know the answer to that at some point in time. This individual was not a part of that academic community.
Yes.
He was not a student.
That's an important distinction to make.
And we have an open campus where all the doors are open everywhere. Now, you know, protecting that community of 50 or 60,000 people who are somehow associated with that community and the outside community, people who live in East Lansing. I think that colleges and universities are community centers.
Yes.
I know down at our place on any given day, we have, I've seen you participate in a number of activities having to do with the college as well as the broader community. And I know our chancellor wants to keep that door wide open to pull that community in.
Well, you know, and I think the other layer that this brings up, what happened at MSU is, you know, and there's been resistance. You know, parents want safety, but at the same time, they don't want their colleges to be converted to metal detectors to enter the college. That becomes, you know, a whole different conversation on the issue of privacy as well.
I can give you a personal answer on that, and an academic answer on that, and a law enforcement answer on that. My personal, I think that colleges have to remain open to the community.
Yeah.
I think the metal detectors to some degree discourage that openness that we all love so much. That's now, I'm not sure, is it possible to do that? Yes, it is possible. It's possible. It's done in the public schools.
Yeah.
There's a limit to entrances. And I think that, you know, with enough people on the ground, you can do that. We have, for example, all over the campuses, our campuses and the campuses at MSU are these telephones where you hit a button and you have an instant law enforcement person who responds. And they ask, what's the problem? And there's this connectivity. You know, I noticed that there were half a dozen police agencies participating in a very short period of time. Now, you know, they practice these kinds of things and they practice and practice, and we practice. If you go to our website, you'll see a video on how to respond to shootings. You'll see that there's instant communication with all the students, faculty, and staff. You'll get a text message if something's happened. You'll get an email, you'll get a phone call. You get all of this, and hopefully to bring the community together to do whatever it has to do, whether it's run or seek cover or do whatever's necessary to be done. So going back to your question about metal detectors, I think we resist that until the very last minute at the college level. Some of the public school people in the region have made decisions about that, but at the college level, I think we hold out on that for quite a while. Take a look at, if you go on our college website and any college website, take a look at what we call the Cleary Report. It is every college has to report annually every crime to the Department of Education. And ours looks absolutely great compared to the surrounding community. So it's a signal.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be more debate on this issue with what happened at Michigan State University. I feel very strongly that I think colleges across the country are looking at their public safety measures as well to see where they go from here. And in the event something like this were to happen somewhere again, and we hope that's not the case.
We have, just from what I've read, there's some signals that some things are going to happen in the larger community, having to do with restricting semi-automatic weapons and background checks and that kind of stuff. And that is just a great beginning. That's a good start.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting us. We appreciate it.
Professor Jim Jackson, a professor of criminal justice and also the chair of the criminal justice program at Wayne County Community College District. We'll be right back.